welcome to Week Zero. Today we're going to discuss Signalgate because this week came out that a US journalist was accidentally, or maybe not so accidentally, added in a secret Signal group chat about American airstrikes in Yemen. And that chat actually included Trump's inner circle. Think about the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, VP JD Vance, CIA Director Radcliffe, and Mike Waltz, who is Trump's national security advisor. They were openly discussing classified military targets. So the journalist who writes for The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, said unnoticed in the chat while they were making plans for live strikes and that were shared in real time. To get a better understanding of what the implications of Signalgate are, with me today is Bill Robinson. He is a columnist at Newsmax, and he himself actually interviewed our president. Oh, sorry, he's not our president. I wish he was. President Trump several times. Bill, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Oh, Scarlett, you're a great patriot.
I feel like maybe I'm a little bit American, right?
Well, the Europeans I know might be wondering what's going on with Signalgate. It's not a Signalgate at all. It's a signal nothing burger. It's something that was completely fabricated by the left to go after President Trump. He handled it beautifully. He said, yeah, we made a mistake. No, I'm not going to fire Mike Waltz. I'm not going to fire Pete Hegseth. That's what they were trying to do, right? They want to get them to fire Hegseth. They want to get President Trump to fire Hegseth or Waltz. Now, in addition to interviewing President Trump, I've also interviewed Mike Waltz. And I can assure you, he's a congressman. He's solid, he's a former military guy, special forces. He's rock solid. There's no way he would do this intentionally. And it was an honest mistake. Mistakes happen. They jumped on the Trump administration first by saying that they're using Signal. And then they realized, oh, wait a second. The entire 4 years of the brain damaged Biden administration, they were using Signal. That's how Signal got approved. So Signal is fairly well encrypted. It's about as encrypted as most apps can get. Obviously, I think President Trump and his national security team are going to take all such conversations offline and off a standard app. They're going to have a special platform for highly classified military intelligence and government war plans. This was not that. This was clearly marked an update. So they were telling, so Pete Hegseth was instructing the people that needed to know what was happening when. He didn't give any specifics. It was not classified information. Jeffrey Goldberg and the Atlantic are simply trying to keep their name in the mix. They have so few readers, it's ridiculous. Less than the New York Times, less viewers than CNN and MSNBC. They only have per hour, by the way, CNN and MSNBC, 80,000 viewers an hour. And so that's less than most podcasts. Independent journalists, people like you and me, Scarlett, are becoming more popular and more listened to than this legacy corporatist media. And so this is all a gigantic scam. If this is the biggest thing they could come up with against President Trump, then okay, well, let them have it. Nobody's that interested. They're more interested in the fact that we're bombing the heck out of the Houthis in Yemen. Nobody could stop the attack. Nobody could change it. There wasn't enough information given to be a national security risk. And the whole thing is a gigantic tempest in a teapot or a mountain made out of a molehill, if you want to use cliches. There is no Signalgate, and it's going to be fixed from now on. So don't listen to the snarling little weasels of the U.S. media. I know that you're not getting. Europe actually needs a conservative media. You actually need people that are going to give you the truth about what's going on. And once President Trump said, "Hey, look, Mike made a mistake. He owned up to it, and it's not going to happen again. Case closed." Then the media switched to, "Let's get Pete Hegseth. Let's get Pete Hegseth. We can't get Waltz. President Trump's not biting on it. Let's get Pete Hegseth." And so a congresswoman, some lunatic, I guess it was a congressman the other day, after they hauled in our national security team to testify in front of Congress, like they don't have better things to do, like keep our country safe. They hauled them in front of Congress And one of the lefty Marxist idiotic congressmen said, asked if Pete Hegseth was drunk when this was happening. Well, okay, let's start asking Nancy Pelosi how many times she's been drunk. Let's start talking to Chuck Schumer about what kind of mood altering drugs he's on. So the whole thing is really just a ridiculous effort to smear President Trump.
Yeah, no, Bill. So, but let's be honest. Look, if I'm reading, um, and I've read several articles to make sure I'm well prepared for our interview today. The fact is, and this is also admitted by the White House, I mean, this is still very sensitive information which is being shared. You don't make this up. Goldberg did not ask to be put into this group chat. It's not like he sent a message, oh, please add me. This Mike Waltz did it, and now he admitted that he made a mistake. But before that, he was like, "Oh, but Mike this, Mike, sorry, Jeffrey this, Jeffrey that," which also I think is not very fair. I think it would have been more respectful if he would have owed up to his mistake right away. And let's be honest, if this would have gotten in the hands of a wrong person, this could have had tremendous consequences. I mean, you do have to understand why people are worried about the fact that this even happened in the first place.
Yes, well, so nobody interceded and stopped the bombings of the Houthis, who very much badly need to be bombed in Yemen. They're threatening the shipping lanes in and out of the Gulf and that area that's so important to the world's commerce. And so I mean, that's why I say it's a nothing burger, because nothing happened. I mean, you look at all the disasters of the Biden administration as one disaster after another. Now, if using Signal this one time, and they're probably never going to use it again, if using Signal this one time and not even naming targets, not even naming what was happening, just saying it was an update. Pete Hegseth even said there'll be more information in your higher end boxes, which meant in your classified boxes. He knew that this is not a place to be discussing classified information. He was giving very general information. I don't remember Waltz talking about Goldberg, but I do remember the president and his press secretary talking about Goldberg. They gave a damning criticism of Goldberg. I know Jeffrey Goldberg. He's a shrieking pain in the neck. He's a total Democrat, Obama supporter, gives all his money, and his wife's an Obama supporter who worked for Hillary Clinton. So, I mean, it's so obvious what they're doing. This is more lawfare, except this time it's not coming from the Biden administration and the courts. It's coming from the media. So now they already have lawsuits on this, on the Signal thing. It's not Signalgate. It's not Watergate. It's not Obama Spygate. It's not a gate. It's like not even a little door. There's no gate here.
Well, maybe it should be, because I watched this Dutch item and they checked with Dutch politicians what kind of technology they're using to have encrypted messaging, because that is what is needed. And it was so funny. I forgot the name. I should look it up. And a politician, they asked him like, "Oh, do you have this in this type of phone?" Which is making sure that your messages are very safe. Nobody really can get into your messaging. And he said, "Yes, I do have it." And then they asked him like, "Is it even charged?" And he said, "Yes." And it was so unconvincing. So I do agree with you that what we've seen now in the Trump administration, probably many governments across the globe are seeing the news and thinking, okay, maybe we should fix the way we communicate within as well. I'm sure this is not only happening within, within Capitol Hill at the moment, but I'm sure that there are many other governments that are facing the same security issues. What I do am worried about is that in Europe, there is this narrative that America is bypassing Europe. Europe was not included in the bombing of Yemen. And for the past weeks, we see that there's this growing tendency that Europe should be more united, especially on the topic of defense. They are very afraid that they cannot rely on President Trump anymore when it comes to defense, especially because they're afraid that Russia will conti- continue the war and that it will also become our war, which it already is actually. But what is your vision on this? Are we having a divorce now with the U.S., with our U.S. allies?
No, I don't think there's any divorce. I think there's clearly a chasm between Keir Starmer and the UK and the US, because after kissing up to President Trump on his visit to Washington and the White House recently, Starmer immediately went back and started talking about war plans and defense budgets. President Trump's not going to like that. President Trump, one of the things he dislikes most of all, one of the things he really detests is phonies. And that's a phony move, right? To say one thing to his face and then behind his back start talking about war plans. England, the UK can't defend itself at all. And we have a number of air bases there where we protect them. That's okay. We have a special relationship with them. But I think with Starmer in there, he's going to start pushing us away and more towards continental Europe. And that's a good thing. I think continental Europe is, and you guys have to do your part. You have to figure a way to get rid of Ursula von Leyen. You have to figure a way to get rid of her. Can she not be impeached? Can't somebody vote her out? Can't we get the conservative parties to get rid of her? She can't just be an unelected lifetime dictator there. So I think that we're going to be getting as Meloni, as Orban, as Farage, as Le Pen, as these true conservative leaders who respect and like Trump, who also, by the way, Le Pen's had 3 or 4 elections stolen from her. So they're doing the same thing that they did to Trump. As they get stronger and more vocal, and as I predict, you're going to see, not only has the Hungarian economy been turning around, but the Italian economy. As these economies turn around, it'll dawn on other Europeans that their leaders are feckless, inert, just dreadful. They're not leaders at all, right? These are people who are in there just pocketing money left and right. So I think it's going to become obvious then. And I think that Europe will really, and because of the disconnect between the UK and continental Europe anyway, I think it's going to really result in Europe and the United States getting closer.
So that means that we should, okay, but is that the only solution that you're offering, that we're ditching Ursula von der Leyen then?
No, but I think it's a darn good start. I mean, I've heard so many things. And then there's her second, the lady under her her name escapes me. It doesn't really matter, but everybody knows in Europe who I'm talking about. There's another woman there, and you don't want her to come in and take Ursula's place. So obviously there's some house cleaning to be done. There's just, you can't continue without taking to the streets, without protesting, without having large rallies. And I know that Prime Minister Meloni and Prime Minister Orban are kind of doing everything they can to stir the anti-EU sentiment. It's high time that the anti-EU sentiment become anti-EU EU protests. And anti-EU, you need to start locking people up. We're going to start locking people up in the United States. We already have. So, and there are good things happening here. I think there are good things happening in Europe, but you got to be strong and you got to fight hard.
Yeah, because that's the next topic I want to discuss with you. Briefly before we started this interview, you were telling me about FAFO. And I looked it up. There is one article written about what FAFO means, but no one knows it yet. I think this is a new term. We'll be hearing much more. Please, Bill, what is FAFO?
So FAFO is F around and find out. So it's that curse word, F around and find out. And what the F really stands for is mess around, try to have these protests, try to burn Teslas, try to have a summer like 2020 where we had St. George Floyd, who was a violent criminal who should have been executed, but died at the hands of police. And, it's just, they keep coming up with these fraudulent false flags. And so they need to really be locked up for these kinds of protests, especially with Pam Bondi, the attorney general here, is going to be locking up a lot of the Tesla protesters. And it's so phony so they need to find out what happens. What are the consequences? This is what's fun about this. It's a conservative kind of Trump type development, FAFO. We're going to start taking the gloves off and we're going to be really tough on people. So that really kind of the way you see it manifest itself right now in the United States today is that they're arresting students that are starting these protests at Columbia University and other major universities here, and they're just locking them up, and they're crying on the streets because the police approach them and they put them in handcuffs. And there was a Turkish lady who was arrested, and she was she's hating America and leading these protests, and then the police come and say, okay, we'll take your purse, put your hands behind your back, we're locked. Oh, crying, wah, 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 wah. So FAFO, F around and find out. She's going home to Turkey. She's not going to like it much anymore. She'll be back in whatever godforsaken Turkish town she's in. And she won't be at Columbia University or Tufts University in Boston. Hey, too bad. You lost it all, honey.
I think a lot of people can get behind that thought that if you go to a country, you conform to that country in a sense that you respect its tradition, the way of living, the way of thinking, and you adopt that as your own. And if you can't respect it, then you should go back to your own country. And I think if we would do that in Europe, it would really fix a lot of the issues. Maybe it's too late for us now, I have to be very honest. But that is definitely something we should further discuss. But for now, Bill, I want to thank you so much for being with us here today and sharing your insights. Once again, I think a lot of people resonate with you saying that we need to get off Ursula von der Leyen. I personally couldn't agree more. And of course, I really want to know what you're thinking at home. Let us know in the comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Scarlett. And keep up the fight in Europe. We're so excited about the liberation and the freedom that our brothers and sisters in Europe want and deserve. So keep fighting.
Thank you. Bill, one more question. If people want to follow you on your social media accounts, where can they follow your work and see your work?
I'm at Relentless Bill almost everywhere, from Twitter, or X as we're now supposed to call it, to Facebook, to Gab, to Signal, to virtually everywhere. So at Relentless Bill, you can just enter, if you search for Relentless Bill Newsmax, you'll come up with all my articles, my interviews with President Trump, and a recent article I wrote on the Make Europe Great Again movement. So that's where people can find me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.